Hi guys, welcome back. So will South Africa join the Six Nations eventually? That's what I want to know. This story's resurfaced again recently. Now, I've made a big video on all the options on what could happen to the Six Nations, if it goes 5 nations, 6 nations, 7 nations, 8 nations, and what combinations thereof. So have a look at that video if you haven't seen that. But this one's about, will it happen? Will South Africa join? Not necessarily, do you want it to happen? And the consensus of Six Nations fans is no, leave it alone. That was the conclusion from the last video. So I don't expect that to change. But will it happen? That's what I want to talk about. So South Africa have committed to the Rugby Championship till 2025, which isn't actually that long a time. And maybe it is just giving them time to get a deal ready with the Six Nations, or maybe it is a prelude to a longer commitment. We will see. Maybe the Rugby Championship will evolve a bit during then, and maybe it will become more of an attractive financial prospect by 2025. But it certainly gives them a little bit of a window to investigate the options. Now, if in the lead up to 2025 they go into negotiations with the Six Nations, I don't think they're going to be wanting to shout about it because, you want to keep your options open. But there's a lot to talk about with TV rights, how it's going to be shared out. Of course, the current shareholders of the Six Nations are all the individual Six Nations, plus another portion, a seventh, to CVC as well. So they're going to have to negotiate that. Now, from my last video, do I think Italy are going to leave the Six Nations or be voted out or bought out or however it would work? No, I don't. I think there's much too much to lose than there is to gain. So I think if anything's going to happen, I think it would be South Africa joining the Six Nations to make it a 7 nations. Now, obviously that comes with a lot of logistical nightmares with travel and also how the competition's going to be structured. Do you just cram in another week and have one less rest week and have to rotate your players more, or do you elongate it somehow? I don't know. But that's what I think would happen if it does happen. Now, remember, the Italian governing body, like I said, they've got a stake in this as well. So other nations would have had to vote them out and buy them out. And like I said, that's a bit of a hoo-ha. So, yeah, personally, I think if it does happen, South Africa goes straight in with a weird 7 nations thing. Now, personally, do I like that as a rugby fan? Not really, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the likelihood of it happening. So, yeah, get on that vote below, copy and paste the link. Tell me if you think it's going to happen or not happen, not whether you want it to happen. Now, personally, I think they will join. I think the money issue is too great. Before the pandemic, South African rugby was in, dire straits, and after the pandemic, even more so. And I think the lucrative draw of making a 7 nations would be too much if they can negotiate it. And I think the TV companies will absolutely love it. And I think CVC, who are a partner here as, a commercial partner to make the product work, will love it as well. I don't think they'll get too concerned over, the feelings of the fans, particularly to keep it a European thing. I think they'll see what can they sell as a product, and adding the Springboks in is going to make anything more lucrative. Get a massive TV deal, bundle stuff together with the women's 6 or 7 nations, the under-20s. I think they've got their fingers in the pie in things like the autumn internationals as well. So absolutely, I think that law of money is going to be too much. And of course, now you have the 4 major South African domestic teams playing in the URC in Europe. It just all makes logical sense, if not kind of a moral rugby sense. So as much as I pains to say it, I think it's going to happen, and I think it's mainly going to be money that makes the world turn around, of course. But I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Now, in 3 years' time, anything could happen. The Rugby Championship could change. They could add new teams like Japan in there, and maybe it becomes more lucrative again. Now, in conclusion, even though I think it will happen, it will be a bit of a shame. We will lose some identity with the Six Nations not being a European tournament, with the Rugby Championship losing the age-old rivalry, say, between South Africa and New Zealand. But I think that is the reality. Money makes the world go round. Rugby is now a professional sport in bed with commercial aspects, and these things probably will happen. Now, hopefully over time, if it does happen, we'll get used to it. We'll enjoy the extra rugby in that 7 nations, say, and, just enjoy the spectacle and maybe hark back to the old days. We will see. It's amazing how quickly we can get used to things. I remember, on a lesser note, when the Six Nations was talking about adding bonus points, everyone was up in arms saying it will ruin it, it's a disaster, it will be rubbish, and it's been fine. Now, I'm not saying that's the same level as South Africa joining. It will be much more of an upheaval, but if it does happen, well, I think we just have to look forward to the positive aspects. But it may not, and I'd love to know your thoughts. Will it happen? Won't it happen? Get in the link below, have a vote, and I'll be back with the results. Be very interested to see what you guys think and why, and also add some points you think I've missed, because this is still very fresh stuff. So I will catch you next time.